Okay, before we kick off the development of our interface, where we are going to do a file-to-file scenario via PO, couple of things. Even though the slides talk about PI, we are only dealing with PO. The PI and PO are loosely used, so do not mind that. The first thing that I would like to highlight is every interaction between PO and BPM, or PI's AEX or PO's AEX and BPM, will happen via service interfaces. And so how do you look at it? What does that mean? It means that from a PO perspective, BPM is nothing but another system that it is connecting to. So when PO is sending a message to BPM, PO will use BPM as a receiving system, and it will use a corresponding service interface. When BPM sends a message out to PO, again BPM will act as a sending system like any other third-party system, and it will use a service interface. When we are building a service interface in the enterprise service repository for PO, what you need to understand is that the service interface has to be of type stateless XI 3.0 compatible. I will show you what that means. And every service interface has an inbound or an outbound direction. All right. And currently, abstract service interfaces are not supported. This is available in SAP's roadmap to be supported in the future, but as of this recording, service interfaces are not currently supported. Okay, so a couple of things to remember when you're dealing with BPMs. BPM, as far as PO's scenarios are concerned, BPM is either a sending system or a receiving system. So like you would do for any other third-party system, you will configure service interfaces to interact with that BPM. So if BPM is the receiving system, the service interface is going to be of type inbound, and the service interface has to be stateless XI 3.0 compatible. If BPM is the sending system, the service interface direction is going to be outbound, and it has to be stateless XI 3.0 compatible. So both inbound and outbound service interfaces are supported, and the service interfaces have to be stateless XI 3.0. Alright, so for this scenario, what we're going to do is we're going to create a data type, we're going to create a message type, and we're going to create 4 service interfaces. Why do we need 4 service interfaces? Let me quickly explain that to you, and then we will start off our development. Alright, so we will have, yes, so you will have one third-party system sending a message to PI, and then from PI it will go to BPM, right? So this is file, this is PI, this is PI or PO, and this is your BPM. Okay, and then you will have BPM acting as the sending system. So BPM here is the receiving system, and then you will have BPM acting as your sending system, and then file acting as your receiving system. So again, this is file, this is PO, this is going to be PO, this is going to be BPM, this is going to be BPM is going to act as a sending system, sending the message to PO, and then PO is going to then send it to a file system. Alright, so what are the service interfaces that we would need? We would need one service interface here, and that is going to be SIOA, outbound asynchronous, and then we need one service interface for PO to BPM, and that is going to be SIIA XI 3.0 compatible, right? And then BPM is going to send the message to PO, so it is going to be again SIOA, and it is going to be XI 3.0 compatible. So whenever we are dealing with BPMs, remember your service interface have to be something that is called XI 3.0 compatible, and we will show you how to do that. And this is the last service interface that we are going to be building, and that's going to be our normal SIIA. Alright, so we are not going to have any mapping as of now, so whatever the input file will come into the BPM, and from the BPM is going to just send the input file outside. Okay, so we will only have one data type and one message type, but we are going to have 4 service interfaces. The first interface that we will be configuring is from file, it comes to PO, and then it goes to BPM, and again from BPM the message comes to PO, and then it goes to a file. Alright, so what kind of adapter we are going to use here? It is going to be file, and out here you're going to use SOAP adapter with XI 3.0 protocol. Alright, we will see how that works. Same way you come here, this adapter is going to be again a SOAP adapter with XI 3.0 protocol. So BPMs are always going to be using SOAP adapters, and here it's going to be again as always a file adapter. Alright, so the interaction between PO and BPMs happens with SOAP adapter with XI 3.0 protocol. So we're going to define a data type, we're going to define a message type, and we're going to define 4 service interfaces. Alright, I'll just check this. Okay. And then in the integration directory, like I told, the interaction between PI and BPM will only happen with SOAP with XI protocol, and this is the URL to which PI will be sending the message to. Alright, so let's go ahead, let's get started, and let's look at how this has to happen. So I'm closing everything. I'm going to my enterprise service browser, I'm going to my enterprise service repository, and I'll start the development. Alright, so first thing I'll be defining is a namespace. So let's go to a software component, and as always create a namespace, right? So I'm going to go here, create a new namespace, new change list. I'll say file to file underscore BPM underscore 00. Alright, that's the namespace. Say OK and add. So I'm going to call it http training.com/po/file to file underscore BPM underscore 0. Namespace for SAP PO training file to file BPM 00. Alright, so our namespace is ready. Now I'm going to go ahead and create my first object, which is our data type. So I right click, I say new data type, and I call it dt underscore source underscore 00, and I'm going to say create. Now let's name it file to file BPM underscore, because we remember we told we are not going to have any mapping, we are only going to have a single data type. Alright, and I'm going to say create the data type and say OK. I'm now going to add an element, and this element is going to be, let's just keep it very simple, a name field of type string. The idea is not to build any complex mappings here, so let's just build a name field, and let's just add one more. Oops, sorry, remove. Again, I have to browse. Every time we make a mistake, the type goes away, so you've got to be very careful. Now click on the data type here, and let's just add one more element. Let's call it gender, and say browse and say string, and let's say OK. Alright, so with that the data type is created. Now let's create the next data type, dt underscore file to file underscore, sorry, no data, sorry, I'm bad. Only one data type is needed. Next we're going to create a message type. I'm going to call it empty underscore file to file underscore BPM underscore 00, and give my corresponding data type, right? So file to file BPM underscore 00. This is all something that's new, nothing new, so it's something I'm creating a little fast. This is something we'll be a little more careful about. Let me open the PPT that this diagram that we did. So the first data type is going to be for the file, so let's call that, create that service interface, SIOA underscore file to file let's just file to file, yeah, let's just call it file to file, sorry, SIOA, and then we will call it source underscore 00. Alright, and say finish. Okay, and now I'm going to say go to the advanced, make sure it's outbound. Alright, say OK, click on the operations, say add input message, browse, say include message type, and say empty underscore file to file BPM underscore 00. Alright, so my first service interface is created. The next service interface is SIIA XI 3.0 compatible, right? Because the BPM is going to receive the input file. So let's say new service interface SIIA file-to-file BPM underscore XI 3.0. I typically prefer putting XI 3.0 as my suffix so that I know it's a BPM in an interface that I built for a BPM, right? So create, say OK, and now this is where in the advanced tab the first thing is we need to make sure it's inbound. Then if you see there's this column called interface pattern, go into this drop down and make sure you select stateless XI 3.0. So for every BPM you need to make sure you're selecting stateless XI 3.0 compatible. Alright, so make sure you go into the interface pattern, because the BPM, this is an interface that is built for BPM. Go into stateless and say XI 3.0 compatible, and then save your service interface. Now click on the operation and click on add input message, browse and select our message type. It's the same message type for everyone. Alright, and now my second service interface is also created, and this service interface is stateless XI 3.0 compatible. Alright, next service interface outbound asynchronous, where BPM is sending the message to PO, right? So I'm going to create a new service interface. I'm going to call it SIOA file to file BPM underscore XI 3.0. Alright, so there are two underscores, XI 3.0. Alright, so this is my, and I'll say underscore 00 and say finish, say OK. Go into the advanced tab. Now you see the category, change it to outbound, because this is an outbound service interface, and because the message is coming from the BPM, it has to be stateless XI 3.0 compatible. Now we go into the operations, we add an input message again, and we browse, we include the message type, we say empty underscore file to file BPM underscore 00, and with this the service interface is also created. The last service interface that we are going to be creating is SIIA file to file underscore BPM underscore target underscore 00. Right, this is the one that goes to the receiving system. It's going to be inbound asynchronous. Say create and say finish and say OK. Now go into advanced, make sure it's input. Now go into the operations, add input message, browse and select our message type. Include message types, select empty underscore file to file BPM underscore 00 and say finish. With this, all the four service interface that I wanted have been created. There is no mapping in this scenario. We are not going to execute any mapping whatsoever. So with that, our enterprise service repository work is done. Right? Now if I go into my change list view, I can see what I've created. I've created one data type, one message type, and four service interfaces. This is the SIOA file to file BPM SRC is the service interface. Then the file comes from the file system, comes to PO, and then the message is going to go to BPM, and you would have defined a service interface that's SIIA XI 3.0 compatible, right? And that is this service interface. Then BPM is the sending system, so it's the outbound service interface that's XI 3.0 compatible, and this is the inbound service interface. Sorry, and this is the corresponding target service interface. With that, our changes are done. So in the enterprise service repository, so let's go ahead and activate our changes. Now my change list is activated. We will now go ahead and build go to the SAP Process Integration Designer view and go into your PI Explorer, and now we are going to go ahead and build our BPM scenario. So we are going to build our integration flow. So right click on your folder, say new folder, let's call it file to file BPM underscore 00 and say finish. Okay, it's asking me for my credentials. I'm giving my credentials. My folder is created. Let's go ahead, create two. How many integration flows are needed, right? So this is integration flow 1. So this whole box is integration flow 1, and this is integration flow 2. So this is the first integration flow where file is a sending system. It comes via PO and it goes to the receiving system, which is and this is the receiving BPM. And then the second integration flow where BPM is the sending system and file is the receiving system. So let's go ahead and now create a new integration flow. Let's call it iflow underscore let's call it file to file BPM underscore 00, and we will say file to BPM, okay, because the message is going from file to BPM. And let's put a suffix 00 here. All right, and it's of type point to point. Click on next. Let's create the sending system. The sending system is BS file system 00. What is the receiving system? Right, there is no receiving system. We have not yet defined a receiving system, so let's cancel this. So what you need to do is go into your systems, right click and say new business component. So for BPMs, for each BPM you need to define one business component that you are going to create, right? So first thing that we need to create, go to systems, say right click, say new business component. I'm going to create a business component and I'm going to call it BS file to file BPM BC file to file BPM underscore 00. I've created this business component. Now it's going to ask me for my sending interface. So I'm going to click on the add button here, okay, and I'm going to say SIOA and select my XI 3.0 service interface. Remember, this is a business component that is only used for the BPM, so you should only select the BP service interfaces that are XI 3.0. Next, go here, click on add and add my receiver system. So I'm coming down, I'm going to say SIIA underscore file to file BPM XI 3.0. Select file to file BPM XI 3.0. That is now selected, and once I've selected that, I'm going to save it. Okay, if you want, you can select integration centric process here as well. So I'm selected integration centric process. All right, with that, my service interfaces have been selected. This is my outbound service interface and this is my inbound service interface. How did I do that? I right clicked and I created a new business component. All right, so now let's go ahead and create our new integration flow. So right click, new integration flow. I say iflow underscore file to file underscore BPM underscore 00. Anything else that we need to add if you can think about it? Yes, let's call it file to file BPM underscore, what we're going to say is file to BPM. This message is going to indicate that the message comes from file and goes to BPM. That's the role of this integration flow. Let's say next, my sending system is training BS file system 00, and I'm going to say browse and I'm going to select file to file BPM source 00. Okay, so that's done. Go to the receiver business component and here let's select, and now what we're going to select, we're going to select BC file to file BPM 00 because that's the business component we just created, and in the interface I'm going to say SIIA file to file BPM 00. With this, the first flow is done. Let's go ahead and click on finish. So as always, you need to define a sender channel and a receiver channel. So let's define a sender channel. I'm going here, I'm giving it a name. I'm going to say file underscore sender, and because the name will contain everything that we want, then I go into my adapter type and I'm going to say file. All right, because my sender adapter is of type file. Here in my input directory, I'm going to go into my CG3Z and I'm going to put this. I'm going to call this PO underscore file to file BPM.xml. All right, that's my input file. Let's copy this, and now let's go into processing, change it to delete, go into advanced, select the adapter specific attributes and select all the attributes here. Okay, now let's go back to a model configurator. My sender channel is configured. Now we need to configure our receiver channel, and for the receiver, remember for the BPM, the channel type is going to be SOAP. But before that, let's just call this SOAP underscore receiver SOAP we'll say SOAP underscore XI underscore receiver. Remember, if I look at the slides, the communication happens with SOAP adapter with the XI protocol, right? So let's go ahead, select the adapter type as browse and select it of type SOAP. Okay, so now my adapter type is SOAP is selected. Now here in the transport protocol, so in the message protocol, select XI 3.0. Repeat, in the message protocol, select it of type XI 3.0 to change it as 3.0 and then save it. Now when I go to the adapter specific attributes, it's asking me for a URL. The URL is this. It's a Java proxy runtime URL. It's a standard URL that you have to provide, localhost : port of your PI server. Right, so I'm going to give my PI localhost, and my PI server is running on 57,300. Right, so I'm going to say localhost, because my BPM is running locally, my PO server contains my BPM. Okay, next select use logon data for a non-SAP system. So here give the URL localhost : your PI server's port. Then you can select use logon data to non-SAP system, right? And then give your PI username. All right, give your PI username, and my PI username is here, and I say, and I give my PI. The user needs to have these authorizations: SAP XI PI server, SAP BPM trigger event. We will see if it works. I'm not sure if my user has this authorization, but we shall check that. All right, and with that, my SOAP adapter is ready. All right, and now my integration scenario is also ready. I'm now going to go ahead, activate my integration scenario. All right, I've activated my integration scenario. My integration scenario is activated, and now I'm going to deploy my integration flow. And click yes. And let's wait for the integration flow to get deployed. While the integration flow is getting deployed, all right, perfect, the integration flow is now gotten deployed. The next integration flow that we have to build is from BPM to file. So let's go ahead and right click and create a new integration flow. Call it iflow underscore file to file BPM underscore BPM to file, because BPM is sending the message underscore 00. It's again a point-to-point scenario. Now who's going to be a sender communication component? It's going to be the BPM send communication component. So it's going to be BC file to file BPM 00. That's my sending interface, sending business component. And then I select my sender interface, make sure it is XI 3.0. Go into your receiver system. My receiver system is BS file system 00, because I'm going to send, the BPM is going to send the file out. Say OK, and now select the interface, right? So I'm going to click on interface, and here you need to select the file to file BPM target service interface that we created. Select that, say OK, and then finish. Perfect. Now it's asking me for my sender communication channel. So let's configure this channel. I'm going to call it SOAP underscore XI underscore sender. Adapter type is browser. I go in and select the type as SOAP, because BPM is sending the message. Remember, BPM will always send it with type SOAP XI 3.0. So again, like we did for the receiver adapter in the SOAP, here we are going to say XI 3.0, and once you say XI 3.0, there's nothing else that you need to enter. Everything else is blank. You can just leave it as blank. All right, my SOAP adapter is ready. Now the last is to configure my receiver file adapter. So I go here, I say file underscore receiver. I select the adapter type and I say type as file. I say OK, and my file adapter is also created. Next, I need to enter my path. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say BPM backslash file to file and backslash, and I'm saying output underscore XML. And now I go into the processing mode and I'm say add timestamp, and with that I'm done. All right. Now if I look at my integration flow, everything's ready. So I'm going to go here, right click, activate your integration flow. Yes, my integration flow was successfully activated. Right click and deploy your integration flow. Okay, with this, once the deployment is done, we have done 50% of the work. We have defined our enterprise service repository configuration. We've defined our integration directory or integration flow configuration, and now we will be proceeding with the BPM development and developing the BPM from the scratch in the next portion of this exercise. So I shall see you then when we start the BPM development in the next session. Till then, bye-bye.